to our third webinar in our series, Cultivating Excellence. Today's webinar is Collaboration Online. For those who may not know me, my name is Tricia Eller, and I am the Northwest and the Western Virtual Instruction Consultant from the Office of Virtual Instruction Services at NCDPI. I have my colleagues here with me today. Betsy and Iris and Christine and Nikisha have joined us, and we are all very excited to have you. Today's facilitators for the webinar are Lindsay Cavaco, who is an instructional coach at Cumberland Virtual Academy for K5. If that's not correct, Lindsay, please correct me in the chat, but I'm thinking that you're with the K5. And then we also have Estella Johnson, who's the assistant principal, Cumberland Virtual Academy 612. Do I have that correct? Yay. Okay, awesome. Yeah. And their email addresses are on the screen should you want to follow up and ask any additional questions. Let me very quickly talk to you about the Teams platform for anyone who is not familiar. Across the top of your screen, you should see these icons. Chat is what you will click to turn on the chat so that you can utilize the chat feature. People tells you who's here. Raise hand means you have a question. You can click that to raise your hand. You will have to click it to put your hand back down. Otherwise, it'll leave it up. You can react. Click the reaction button. You can heart, laugh, whatever. And then there's an icon for your camera to turn your camera on and off, and an icon for your microphone. I do want to let everyone know that this webinar is recorded, so please feel free to leave your camera off if that is your preference. We also ask that you would keep your microphone muted until you wish to speak. That just keeps background noise from happening. So before I turn it over to Ms. Johnson and Ms. Cavaco, we're going to do a quick welcoming inclusion. This is also practice using the chat. I've got 3 sentences here that I want you to finish. These are creative takes. So you're going to finish the sentence in the chat. Maybe. Come on. There we go. Sorry about that. Everyone should try eating dessert for breakfast because. Well, I'm not going to use the chat. I'm just going to say out loud that I think you should, always save the best for first. I was going to say sugar first thing in the morning. Life is too short to not, because why not? Perfect answer. It tastes good. You only live once. YOLO, yes. I love that, Laura. Start the day out with sweet. So if anything sour happens, you got sweet to balance it out. That is great. Cancels it, yes. These are great. Okay, sentence number 2. Come on, there we go. The most effective virtual lesson plan includes at least one moment of. Ooh, authentic connection, collaboration, human connection, laughter. Yes, laughter. These are all fabulous. Reflection, belonging, connection, collaboration, and I would say collaboration and laughter, Laura, definitely. Keep them rolling, keep them rolling. And the last one, every teacher deserves a personal assistant who, I'm going to say, brings coffee. Yes, Gina, every lesson plan should have a moment of feeling good about yourself. A personal assistant who gives them coffee, chocolate, and endless pep talks. Bathroom breaks. Yes. Calls parents back. Yes, because we do want to do that as educators. It's important, and sometimes it's hard to find the time to do that very important thing. These are great. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Help with small groups. Yes. Okay, so at this point, I am going to turn it over to Lindsay and Estella. So I'm going to switch to presenter view. Can everyone see their presentation on my screen? Somebody give me a thumbs up if you can see collaboration online. Yay! Awesome. All right, I'm going to mute and turn it over to them.
Okay, you can go on to the next slide. I'll start. I am Estella Johnson. As shared, I am the assistant principal. I always say the inaugural because I'm the first and I am still here. Uh, assistant principal of Cumberland Academy 6 to 12. I am also a proud fur mommy. I am an auntie personally. Outside of that, I'm a proud member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, and I have been for 19 years. I am also a big advocate for equity in education and ed tech. I hold a master's degree in instructional technology. And such, in that role, I am probably one of the newest members on the NC Ties board. Thank you. Thank you.
And as Ms. Tricia said, I am Lindsay Cavaco. I'm Cumberland Virtual Academy K-5's virtual instructional coach. I have been in education for 10 years now. 5 of those years have been in virtual education. So coming next year, I can actually say I've been virtual more than I have been in the building. So that's exciting. With that being said, some of our session norms, if we could go to the next slide, is just making sure that we're here in the moment, being respectful and taking turns. There will be moments where you're asked to use the chat box. And just like she said earlier, making sure our microphones are muted so that way we're not interrupting any part of the webinar. And of course, if you have any questions during this webinar, please put it in the chat box. We love questions. As far as our overview for this session, we've told you a lot about ourselves. We really want to hear from you, the audience. So please tell us in the chat box where you're from and what brings you to us today.
And I'm looking at the chat for shout outs.
Mhm.
Don't have any entries quite yet.
Well, while they're typing that, just so you're
I'm
aware of our,
seeing
oh, we got one.
Edenton,
Yay.
North Carolina. I hope I pronounced that right. Edenton, North Carolina. Excited to
Mm-hmm.
learn about how to operate your breakouts. We have
Mm-hmm.
Greensboro. Who else do we have? I see Miss E. Hall, so we have Fayetteville. Virtual
Yeah.
Academy, Randolph, Iris. So they're popping up quick now. Henderson, Buncombe County, Lenore,
Wow.
all over. Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing to see how many virtual academies there are in North
Yes. Pitt
Carolina. There
County,
truly is.
Union, Moore, Hoke. Okay, Hoke.
Mm-hmm.
Right next door. Pilot Mountain. Buncombe, Cumberland County Schools. Miss
Hey,
Hall, that's my
hey.
science teacher.
Oh, look at that. Well, there you all are in the right place because today is all about how to collaborate online. And so some of the areas that we're going to touch on is how to boost engagement in those breakout rooms. We are going to go over some tech tools to enhance the collaboration. We're also going to be showing some high yield strategies and using some of those high yield strategies today. And then, of course, we'll close out with questions.
Okay, so one of the first things we're going to do is get started with a Padlet. And you're going to be answering the question, what is the difference between group work and collaboration? And so the link to the Padlet has been dropped in the chat box. Go ahead and open that up and tell us what is the difference between group work and collaboration. Give you a few moments. And don't feel like you have to be perfect. Just what you think off the top of your head. Just answer quickly. No chat GPT students. Just answer as best as you think. Okay, so I have group work is just completing a set of tasks to reach an end. Collaboration is actively doing it together and discussing the task throughout. Group work is when we work on one assignment. Ooh, it's popping quickly now. I lost my place.
Mhm.
I'll let some of them come in and I'll answer, read them. Group work is simply a group of people completing tasks together while collaborating implies shared decision making and problem solving. Group work is when they work on one assignment together and turn in one product. Collaboration to me means they talk it through but turn in their own individual assignments. Group work is just completing a set of tasks each. And okay, read that one. Okay, so we have different, a few more. I'll give about a few seconds for about one or two more to pop in. Group work may be everyone completing a different part of the product or assignment. Collaboration is when everyone is working together, communicating, and completing assignments. Okay, you can go back to the PowerPoint. This is definitely the AIG bunch.
Mhm.
So, group work, for the most part, we would define it as tasks divided among members with each completing like individual parts. So, it's almost like if you have a major task and we split it up and we all take a part. Okay. And so it could just, or it could just be a group of students in a breakout room together working. Maybe they never communicate. Maybe they say a few things on the chat. Maybe they'll say, well, I'm going to do this part and you do that part. Okay. It's kind of individual. Oftentimes in group work, they may not all get the same understanding of the learning goal if we don't design it properly. Okay. And the group work, we may not all carry the same amount of weight for the assignment. Okay. Every word, every voice may or may not be heard in group work. But collaboration is team working together to share a responsibility for a common goal. There should be no opting out. Everyone should hold an equal amount and everyone should be responsible for the end learning goal. Group members hold each other accountable for the entire outcome. There should be individual accountability, equal participation, and simulated interaction. Now, I want you to understand that in online learning, I am not saying every day is going to be collaboration and no, it's okay. There is a time and place for group work and there is a time and place for collaboration. However, if you're using group work, that should not be the end all. It should lead to some form of collaboration. Next slide. So oftentimes when we have collaboration or group work, whatever, when using breakouts, there's some kind of things that we should use. Okay. So one of them always is you have to set clear and concise goals. Okay. Consistency. Before you even start your class in the beginning, you always talk about building community. Kids should kind of know when we get in groups, how's this thing going to work? If I need my teacher's help, what am I supposed to do? What does this thing look like? What are the expectations? Okay. Group sizes, I would say from 3 to 5 is probably where you want to go. You don't want to go too much bigger than that. Setting student accountability is paramount. Think about yourself as an adult. I know when I was a kid, I hated working in groups because I found myself doing all the work. Okay. So, or not really knowing what are we supposed to do? I'm lost. I'm confused. So, those goals in the beginning, the expectations in the beginning, and rubrics. Rubrics are so important because it lays out what we're going to be graded on and make sure that rubric is set to your learning goal. Also, little things that I've learned from my teachers because I don't know it all. I learn from my teachers every day. Surveys. A lot of my teachers, after any kind of group work, whether it's group work or collaboration, they release surveys where they kind of get to tell what the other kids are doing. I did everything. Johnny didn't do anything. Susie didn't do her part. Susie didn't show up. Susie wouldn't communicate. Susie was looking at TV. Okay. And so if everybody gives that in the group, it gives you kind of a bird's eye view of what's going on. Digital checking of history. If they're making like anything on Google Docs, whether it's a PowerPoint, a Google Draw, you tell them to add you as a collaborator or share it to you. Go to that lovely little history button. You can see who did what. and timestamps and as it was developed. So that can kind of give you an indication on who did what. And so a lot of teachers in my school utilize that. Next part, roles. If you just dump them in a breakout room, they're going to sit there and blink at each other, or they may not speak, or they might not talk. They need roles, okay? So you might need a facilitator to guide the discussion, a recorder, a reporter, and a timekeeper. And then you have to, teachers, monitor your breakouts and provide feedback and support students. One of the things at our school, at first we were on WebEx, and now we've moved over to Google Meets. And so when we first moved to Google Meets, we had the free version. So teachers, in order to do breakouts, they had like 4 and 5 breakouts going. Now we have the paid version. And I'm like, well, why are some of these teachers still using 4 and 5 different breakout links? The reason being is they can record all of them. And so they can go back and kind of see what was going on in different groups. So it's a great tool for accountability. And I was like, oh, okay. And it allows them to quickly jump into different groups. I can't think of the name of it right off the top of hand. It used to be like Today's Meet, but there are sites where the kids can, hey, we need help, and you can jump to that group and give them help. So all those things are important and imperative. But my question to you in the chat is, these breakouts, do you think this leads more to group work, or is this leading more towards collaboration? Okay, so collaboration. So far, I got one collaboration. Depends. Okay.
Depends.
Collaboration. Depends. Could either way. Okay. Both both could be improved. Okay. If I leave it here, it's gonna be group work. Because look here, I have the roles, I have facilitator, but the facilitator is gonna do the most of the work. If you have a student who wants to hide, who doesn't want to do the work, what role are they gonna pick? And anybody can unmute. Timekeeper. Sign me up for timekeeper. You think about it right now. If you have a committee at your school and they don't, you got that teacher who's just like, I'm trying to do my little piece and I'm going home, not doing anything extra. They sign to be a timekeeper. After that, they may sign up to be the recorder. I'm just going to make sure I take the notes. After that, you get nobody wants to be the facilitator. Whoever is the leader and like to talk, you're going to be the facilitator because we want to hide. So if we're not careful when you're designing, you have to be very careful, whether it's collaborative or group work, to make sure that the work balance is equal. So if you're the timekeeper, you keep time and you do dot 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 dot. If you're the reporter, you're gonna tell me, share out for your group, and then I need you to do this, because I want to make sure that you learned what you were supposed to learn. Recorder, you're taking notes, but you also have to do this, because we want to make sure that everybody's learning what they're supposed to do. Nobody is opting out. Okay. It's not quite collaboration still because it's all split up in silos. But now if they all have to work together and communicate and collaborate, now we're starting to cross over towards collaboration. Next slide.
So we're about to show you an activity that was actually developed right about when emergency learning started happening, where breakouts were used a lot. It's a fantastic activity for breakouts. But again, just like she was just saying, just because we have the roles and we're grouped, you can tell that this activity was very detailed. That doesn't mean it's giving that collaboration piece. So on the next slide, you'll see that this teacher has all the job descriptions. Everything's laid out and it's super cutesy. Of course, you know, I said I'm from K5, so I got to have lollipops and candy things. And it's all there, and the students should know exactly what they're doing. On the next slide, you'll also see that the students can tell which groups they're in. I mean, it's very detailed work. They know who they're going to be working with. And of course, the teacher made intentional decisions on who was going to be working with who. It wasn't randomly putting kids in a breakout room. She did make these intentional groups. On the next slide, it shows what it would look like in presentation mode. That's the teacher there, right there in front. So what the kids would do is they would click on the teacher, and it would take them right into the candy shop, which is where you would find the activities. So I'm going to just have her go to the next slide. So that's what it would look like as you've walked into the candy shop. And then, of course, this is a version of a hyperdoc, right? Which if you've ever taken Rethink, hyperdocs are huge. And this is great because you can hyperlink anything. So you could do like escape rooms for an activity like this. You could do an activity where you're doing task cards. And that's kind of what this was. You'll see there's numbers at the top. Those were task cards. Tarisha, if you could click on any one of those, you can actually see some of the student responses. So the groups broke out, and they were supposed to work together to answer these questions. Great part is their open response. Like for this one, it's not ABC, so they do have to work together. But again, all they have to rely on are those roles. So now that you see what it looks like when the students have produced something, my next question on the next slide would be, now that we've developed this really awesome hyperdoc, it's a great activity, it's technically group work. In the chat box, I want you to take a second to think about how you can take what you've already planned, already done and made, and make this more collaborative. And I know it takes a second for the chat box to start rolling, and I know there's some think time in that. Having the students creating something new. I like that. That also pulls in that technology piece where they're not just consuming, they're being producers. Student could be assigned different fonts. Ooh, I like that, Emily. Yeah, that goes back to that student accountability. So you can see who was actually part of the conversation. And like Ms. Johnson said earlier, no opt out. Maybe we require that every student has a response. See, it's a great activity, but we're just taking it that one step farther. How can we get some student accountability in there? This is perfect. That's exactly what Miss Johnson and I were talking about, is maybe making initials by it to make sure that everybody, and there's also where maybe each person could be assigned to a part, and then they can check each other, right? You can check each other's work, peer reviews. Yep, peer feedback. I just saw it in the chat box. Perfect. Yep, it's all about taking ownership of that work. You guys are excellent. So this is just one way that you can take something that's already been created that would be considered group work and make it more collaborative. All right, next slide.
So one of the biggest things, of course, is we're virtual. So tech tools, of course, are always imperative. So one of the questions we do have in my school is kind of blended. Most of my teachers are synchronous, but we do have some asynchronous teachers. So when we talk about collaboration, in their mind, there's no way for them to collaborate, and that is not true. Or teachers think that collaboration always has to be for students, planned out, roles. And no, sometimes you can collaborate almost on the fly. Okay, so here are some tech tools, and then we'll go over some strategies on the fly. So one that I love is discussion boards. And one discussion board you can use is Padlet. If your school does Canvas, you can do Canvas. I don't know a lot about Google Classroom. I'm sorry. I've been in the Canvas world for kind of a while now. But if they have anything that's like a discussion board, you can use that as well. Or even if it allows you to post and respond, you can pretty much build a discussion board. So if you would click where it says discussion boards. So one of the things we started doing in my school this year is kind of having protocol. So you don't just have a discussion board, there's another step to it. So let's say I had a question like, what is my favorite candy? Or your Padlet question, what's the difference between group work and collaboration? Afterwards, maybe the next day or even that same day, you would respond to a classmate, and you would have to use this protocol. Tell me something that you appreciate. So maybe I would say, I appreciate what you said about group work when you said dot 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 dot, or I agree or whatever. Inquire, I wonder if you could elaborate on, or I'm curious about, or could you explain what you meant by, and then make suggestions. Okay. And you can do that almost in any course. Okay. Or if you're in math, you can put all the time I'm on social media and I'll see someone post a math problem, and I'm not the strongest math student. So I get a little nervous, but I'm thinking, no, my teacher taught me that. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So this is the answer. And you post it, and then somebody comes behind me and says, no, that's not the answer. This is the answer. And then a debate starts. No, because you have to do this first. No, you don't. You do this first. No, you do that. You do this first. I've seen math teachers, both teaching the same sixth grade math, go back and forth about whether I think it was 125 or 5, what the answer was. So that is a perfect way that you can do discussion boards. You can have the question or something that they can debate or they can give their opinion, especially if you're in middle school and high school. They always want to debate, they always want to give their opinion. Elementary, it could just be a this or that. Which one would you pick and why? And then they can respond to their classmate. That is a form of collaboration. You can go back to the PowerPoint. Google Suites. I put the little waffle there. Anything in Google Suites can be collaborative, whether it is a Google Doc, whether it is a PowerPoint, whether it is, oh my goodness, drawing. Any of the tools allows you to share and invite somebody else to edit. So together they can work together, whether it's just two people, four, five, six, whatever. They can collaborate and work with each other. Another example of that is Canva. Canva allows kids to create oodles of things, and it allows them to use templates, and they can invite people to the template and it can work together. Nearpod and Peer Deck. I always say Nearpod and Peer Deck is like the Android and the Apple. Which team are you? We had that argument in our school all the time. Those are two things that you can definitely use, and they have collaborative tools within those built in, like collaboration boards like Peer Deck. Thick Jam, that is through Google Suites as well. I'm thinking what I can't think what it used to be called right now off the top of my head, but it's basically an interactive
Jamboard.
Jamboard. Thank you. It's an interactive whiteboard. Again, students can collaborate with each other, give each other feedback. They can like stuff. I disagree. I like it, whatever. So they can collaborate. All of us love a Kahoot, a Gimkit, a Quizlet. Use your breakout rooms, have them be in teams and compete against each other. That's an easy way to instantly have your little collaboration. Your LMS has discussion boards built in it, quizzes built in it. If you're in Canvas and your school will pay for it, you can use Studio so they can easily respond to each other, give feedback to each other. If you have an assignment, and especially in Canvas, you can assign a peer reviewer. One of the best things I can say you can use for discussion board, have them go ahead and submit their assignment or have a peer reviewer with the rubric. I, another student, look through your stuff. I give you feedback based off the rubric. You take it back, you fix it, you change it. I give you another person to review your work. They give you feedback. Then you can fix it and do your final submission. So you can give a grade for your final submission, and I can give you a grade for the feedback that you gave the students based off the rubric. There's a deep learning in that, but it's still collaborative. You're still working with someone else. There's still discussion. There's still going back and forth. And then also, of course, in that, you can do some voice and choice. And again, you can do that even if you're asynchronous. You do not have to be synchronous to do some of this stuff. Podcasting is my new one. I am a baby podcaster. I'm just getting started, so bear with me. But on podcasting, Spotify has a free podcasting, and it's super easy. Everything is license free, so you don't have to worry about taking somebody's music or anything like that. You don't have to have a bunch of, just need headphones and internet. You don't have a Chromebook is fine. You don't have to have like the top notch microphones and technology. It doesn't require all of that. Kids can invite their link to another classmate and they can have a podcast together. So if they're learning about a topic, they can create a podcast. If they were learning about a story, they could discuss a character. If they were learning about math, they could discuss ways to do things. That's again another way of doing collaboration together with a classmate. If they did want to interview their mom or their dad, if it's like high school economics or something, that can be a podcast. So there are several ways. If you can invite somebody, you just think of it and just make sure that it's balanced, you can have collaboration.
All right, we can head to the next slide. So one of the other areas that we are really pushing in our Cumberland County schools is high yield strategies. Um, we are going to look at a clearer, stronger routine today. But high yield strategies can also be like think, pair, share, or a jigsaw. And Miss Johnson, she's going to talk about some other things that you can do for high yield strategies as well.
I thought I saw before we move on, I felt like I saw a hand. Was there a hand up or did I miss it? Okay. So one of them, of course, I went over was peer reviews. So if you submit an assignment, you can share it to somebody else and they give feedback. Another one that I recently found is called eMints, and she can drop the full link in the chat as well as pull up the site. So I'm gonna go ahead and fair warn you. If you're in this virtual game, then you are probably used to taking things and we have to tweak it to make it work for us. Okay, so you will have to tweak some of these to make it work for us. However, they're good examples of cooperative, aka collaborative learning. So one of them is like a 3-2-1 reflection activity, and again, you can have them do that in discussion board and have somebody respond. This one, A, B, each teach. Pair designated one partner as A, one is B. Person A reads one section of text. Person B reads another section of text. When both are reading ready, they each teach the other about the section of the text they read. Just little short strategies that you can add in and build up into your class. Circle the sage on the stage. Now, obviously, you in a building, we would say, okay, whoever thinks they really, really know this, I need 3 or 4 volunteers. You go to this corner, you go to that corner. We're virtual, okay? So you can't do that. But you can say, I need some strong volunteers that feel like they are experts on these topics. Maybe something, maybe it's the day before you take a test that they're struggling on. Put them in breakout rooms. If you feel like you need help with dot 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 dot, or based on your data, I know you need help with dot 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 dot. You're going in this room, you're going in this room, you're going in that room, you're going in that room, and you guys are going to work on these activities together. And then we're going to come out and see what you know, or we're going to do a Kahoot game or see who wins or whatever you guys choose to do. Okay. Sage on the stage. It makes the student the teacher. Add on the story, put them in a breakout room. One starts the story, the next one adds to it and adds to it and adds to it, adds to it and adds to it. It's a team builder, good icebreaker. So there are several on here. This is a free site. Welcome to
Can I,
you.
Estella, I just want to
Mhm,
point out at the bottom,
mhm.
y'all, look, it goes, there are 13 pages. Like, we're not going to click through them all. Y'all going to have to do that on your own. But I just want you to see that she just sampled a few. I'm excited to dig in and see all these. Yeah, it's great.
And there were like some other ones if you want to just go through the eMint site as a whole. Me and Ms. Cavaco was looking at it earlier, and there was one where it said for the kids to line up. And we were like, well, our kids can't line up because we're virtual. And I was like, yes, true. But I said, you can get a Google slide and have them put their little, because they had them line up by their birthday order. I was like, they could just put like a box and put their
Mm-hmm.
initials and then line up by a birthday order. I was like, and then the next one they had to like answer a question, and so it was like steps. So there's this part of it, and then there's a place where it's like collaborative where they get up moving. So just make sure you kind of enjoy the site, look through the site, and it's free stuff. I love free.
Free is amazing. So with that being said, we are going to also give you a preview of what is called clearer, stronger routine. On this next slide, it kind of goes through the instructions as if you were a student. So today, if we were to do this, I'm just going to run through it with you and then we're going to break out and you can give me your ideas and thoughts. But you would pose a question to your student right up at the top. I've seen teachers use essential questions. I've seen teachers use questions for vocabulary, all kinds of different questions, but it's only one question. So like here, your question, how might you scaffold this activity for your grade level? So think about as I'm talking through this, what you might do for your own personal needs with this routine. The instructions for the clearer, stronger routine is that you give your students 1 minute individual think time. It's a real quick, because if they're fluent in it, they shouldn't need a whole lot of time. So maybe 1, 2 minutes max. And they're going to enter their thoughts in on quadrant one. So if you go to the next slide, I'm going to show you what I mean by quadrant one. So the gold quadrant, you don't have to click on that hyperlink. The gold quadrant, that quadrant 1, is just for the personal thought, okay? Just for the student's personal thought of how they would answer that question. Now, what will happen is when we get to quadrant 2, you would break the students out with a partner, okay? And what you're going to do is they all had think time. Your partner is going to tell you what they thought, and that person is going to tell them what they wrote down on their quadrant. So now they have two ideas. They have to distributely summarize those two thoughts together, which is high order thinking. So this is a very high order thinking task that they're doing. And then they reword it in quadrant 2. So then they will do that 2 more times with different partners. So they would get broken out again and tell their new partner what I discussed with my partner in quadrant 2. And then they are going to say, well, I discussed this with my partner in quadrant 2, and they will distributively summarize again. At the end, quadrant 4, so they only get broken out twice for this. At the end of quadrant 4, the student is to look back at all of those quadrants and come up with a clear, stronger decision of what that academic vocabulary may be, or how they would answer a math problem. It just like, yeah, very much just continues to build. Now, Tarisha, if you could click on that hyperlink now, I'd like to show them what that would look like if they were in a breakout room. So that first slide, that instructions, like we talked about earlier, instructions are there and they're clear. And then each student would have their own slide. So that also gives them the student accountability piece. If you number your students, you know whose slide is who. Number 2 is Sam. Number 3 is Estella. Number 4 is Lindsay. But you can see all of the conversations that are going on within these students. And when they're broken out, they're already building on what they have. So it shouldn't take long for their breakouts, maybe 5 minutes to collaborate. So essentially, we're talking this activity here may take no more than 20 minutes, but the possibilities are endless. So my question for you all now would be, in the chat box, or actually, I'm sorry, we're going to break out for this. In the breakout, go to one more slide. Yeah, that one. We're going to turn and talk. She's going to break you out, and you're going to think about how you could use this clearer, stronger routine. How would you implement it in your school or even your class, depending on what your role is? Okay, and I think we said four in a breakout if possible. There might be 3.
All right, it looks like the rooms are closing. So Lindsay, I will let you take back over.
Awesome, thank you. So I would love, well, we would love to hear some of the things that you came up with. This is, like I was telling Miss Johnson and Teresa, this is something new within the last month that we've actually started implementing in our school. So I would love to hear some of that feedback that you guys had in your breakout rooms. How would you see implementing this into your school based on your current position? Or if you're a teacher, how would you do it in your classroom? If you could put that in the chat box, that would be great. Or are they able to unmute? They are? Okay.
They should be able to unmute. Yes. Okay, go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, can. Is it okay if I answer and don't type it?
Yes, I was going
Absolutely.
to say it could be a lot to type, so I'd like to hear.
One of the things that we had kind of talked about was, so I teach EC students. So 4 quadrants could be a little bit much for them. I could see that being a little overwhelming. Not to mention, I think I'd have to be a little more specific, or I don't want to say direct in how I pair them, but I'd hate for them to get the wrong answer told to them 4 times. So I think that would be something that it's a great idea, and I've used it before, like in meetings with adults, and I liked getting everyone's opinion. I think I would just have to be a lot more deliberate about the implementation with EC students to make sure that it has a positive outcome and not sets them off on the wrong track, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Makes total sense. Yes.
And it may be used more for collaboration. A lot of times in math or whatever subject to get them hooked or into something. Like, why would you use this in the real world, or why might this be important? Something that's not necessarily a right or wrong answer versus 2x plus b equals da da da. Where it's definitely a right or wrong. But that's definitely a perspective, and you don't want to overwhelm a EC student, so you might want to chunk it
Mm-hmm.
rather than them see all four at one time. So one I see is from Ms. Hall is partner discussions to gather thoughts before a class-wide discussion. That's always good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if other virtual schools have this. Our students are very shy. It is very hard to get them to open up and answer. So this may be, good. Um, Ms. Eller put differentiation and knowing your students. Absolutely. Melanie put, we were discussing how this is great for our AIG students by giving them different types of opportunities to work with varied levels of students. They might be able to collaborate with the other higher 1 minute, with the other hires 1 minute, but then become leaders in the next minute. That's true.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I've seen our kindergarten teacher do, going back to this is a Google slide. You can put like a little, it looks like a little speaker, so the sound comes out. Use it as a hyperdoc, and you can put audio files. You can hyperlink the audio files. So like if kind of like with the EC student, if you know that they might forget the question a lot, or if they need to go back and review, there's also record functions that you can put in there because some of this, obviously, if lower grades, they're not able to type as well. Like a record function where they know that they just click there and record their thoughts. Um, those were some of the things that some of the kids or some of the teachers in lower grades for our school were coming up with when we first started implementing it as well.
Okay. And so I see we talked about the benefits of providing personal think time at the beginning of the activity. That is, I think that is game changing, especially if you have students who have anxiety. Just having that moment to think through it before you speak. Even we were talking about ways to get our students to communicate more. We do what we call pre-code calling. So, Kavako, I'm gonna ask a question in Kavako. After the timer goes off, I'm gonna ask you to answer it. So she already knows and she's preparing herself.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just
As
gonna, oh,
Go
I'm
ahead, I'm
sorry.
sorry.
I was just going to say that as someone who is a verbal processor, I'm hearkening back to what Betsy talked about, their group discussed, having to type those thoughts down, letting me gather my thoughts in a place, and not just kind of spitting them out, verbally. I think that's huge because that's a skill I've had to learn, how to take what I just need to tell somebody and put it down in thought. And so I love that.
Mm-hmm.
As Penn has, as a music teacher, we do creative music making projects. I think sharing like this with multiple people would help students generate ideas for their own projects. Great idea. I like
Mm-hmm.
that.
I like that.
Mhm.
It's really cool to see something so simple as 4 quadrants and just being able to collaborate as you go along. And like she said earlier, if you don't want to start with 4 quadrants, chunk it. It's okay to start with 2. I think being able to just really have the time to really think before you go into a breakout, because I've seen so many times when going into classroom, it's like, okay, we're going to break out now, and then they just freeze because they don't know what to say. And so
Mhm.
making sure that they know what to say prior to going in there, having an engaging discussion starter is key there. So I do this next slide. We want to say thank you for joining us, and of course you have our email addresses. If you have any questions, or if you didn't get the presentation, or you lose something, or you want some of these resources that you've seen today, please feel free to contact us. We don't mind sharing what we have and what we've been doing.
Yes, this has really been fabulous, and I've taken a lot away from it, and I'm going to be checking out that eMint site. And I just, like I said, while y'all were in breakout rooms, I will share this. I love that all of these strategies work for all age groups. For your adult learners, for your K-12 students, college kids. So to wrap us up, thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, Estella. This was
You're
absolutely
welcome.
wonderful. Let me get to our wrap up here. We do have a couple of housekeeping things for you. I'm going to have Betsy drop in the chat for us an exit ticket. This is our session exit ticket because we are a continuous improvement model. So this feedback is very important for us as we look toward the 3 webinars in the spring. This helps us. And then if you would like to have a CEU for today, you get 0.1 CEUs for today. If you'll just give me your name and email address on the collaboration online form that she put in, I will do those tomorrow. I'll get those generated tomorrow. Okay, so CEUs are awarded through Badger, Canvas Badger. So this is what it will look like. I went ahead and awarded one to myself so I could give you a screenshot. And it tells kind of what we covered, and it'll have what you did at the bottom, and that way you can share that with your folks in HR to get your CEUs awarded. If you are on the X platform, which was formerly known as Twitter, we are going to be having a follow-up chat for this. It's just 15 minutes. We're going to start at 5:05. There are the questions. We're going to have you share your name and a collaboration strategy you're excited to start using. What's your most effective strategy for successful collaborative learning? And then how will your online collaboration design be impacted by what you learned today? So those are the 3 questions that we are going to chat about really quickly. And if you're not on the X platform, this is not a requirement. This is optional. This is for anybody that wants to jump in and chat on X about what you've learned. So don't feel bad if you're not on that platform. It's okay. But we'd love to see you. And right before I end this for today, I am going to let you know that we will have 3 more in the spring. The next one is in February. It's on the 11th, and it is Cultivating a Learner's Mindset, and it's going to be facilitated by Ashley Priam, the Digital Integration Facilitator from Moore County Schools. So we're very excited about that one. Hope that everyone has a wonderful, wonderful evening, and hope to see you on our chat on X here in about 10 minutes. So awesome, awesome. And if you have any questions, I think Betsy has dropped several things in the chat, but if you can email me, if you forgot something, you can always email me and I can send you links to stuff.